Let me introduce her. She is a thought leader whose insights challenge us to rethink community, connection, and healing. And her talk is about how the deterioration of culture in America and how it has destroyed community. Wow, I'm ready for this powerful talk. Thank you so much, Mia.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the introduction, and I'm grateful to be here. So thank you for having me. I want to give thanks to the invitation that was extended to me. I also want to give thanks to my ancestors that walked the path to make it be able for me to even be in this position today. I want to thank each one of you for being here and watching me as well. And I also want to give thanks to the great goddess Inanna and Atu, the goddesses of relief and protection, as well as corrections. So thank you. Should I start or? Go ahead. Okay. Fantastic. I suffered from mental illness at a very young age from abuse of my family. And obviously, when you start really young, and that's kind of like what you have been programmed to accept as love. I was always kind of lost, always trying to figure things out. And it wasn't until the moment that I discovered, the history of America and my lineage is what really brought me back. So I think that the occult world is a very important topic. And a lot of times in the new world that is actually in chaos right now, they like to say that it's a pseudoscience, but the science of self is never a pseudoscience, and occult just means hidden. And in life, everything is occult. We never know. Everything's a mystery. So we're all in a cult at all times because everything's hidden until it becomes aware in your consciousness and in your reality because it's all happening in tandem. So I want to talk a little bit about patterns and how we all have patterns of behavior. Of course, we know that. But a lot of the times we think that the reality outside of us is more powerful than the reality within us. And it's really important to understand that although when we are babies, we are born and we have seeds that are planted in us, we already have gifts that are there inside of us waiting to be awakened. And we all have patterns of behavior even if they seem like they just come from childhood, they're actually a lot deeper. So I want to introduce that idea as well as like patterns that we see. A lot of what got me out of mental illness and a lack of confidence and just drawing in a lot of self-awareness was patterns, not only the patterns of the perpetual misery cycles that I was in that I didn't want to live anymore, but also the patterns that nature was showing me. Whether it be an orange, I keep seeing oranges, and sometimes that means your body needs it, but it's also a sign. And the deep symbolism that we kind of ignore. And sometimes it's just numbers. I know everyone's getting into the numbers, but even light, even, the light bulb represents illumination and things like that. And there's very deep symbolism in patterns. And when you look at ancient culture, heraldry and things like that, you always saw that people revered symbols and really appreciated nature because nature has patterns, everything has a pattern and it all starts from the flower of life, the circle of life that is very famous that we see on people's pendants and whatnot now. So, we have those patterns that we see, and it's about paying more attention, not only to the patterns that our minds are making, but also what nature is trying to tell you. And I found that in my journey, it was that gave me strength. I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have a community. I didn't have anyone. And I was receiving a lot of oppression. I was, illegally arrested and more stuff. And the only thing that brought me back was those signs and symbols, was that deeper awareness. And it was through culture and other things that are very actually associated with culture, like the Tao and things like that. So I also want to talk about, control patterns as far as like control patterns that we see in society. Um, Control patterns usually of the divine feminine. We always think that we have control over everything, but the reality is that we only can control ourselves. So we have a pattern that's been ingrained in society, that is basically says that we must control others to assert power, but that's not real. So, a lot of people are shifting dynamics now to being more empowered. But what does that really mean? When you can't control anything around you, you can't, which most of the time you can't, you have to tap into yourself. And it is my understanding that that is a suppression of the divine feminine and the creation nature. Along history, we always see that there's always this suppression of not only there's been suppression of music, suppression of dance. I don't know when everybody remembers when they were shutting down art programs about 15 years ago. There's always the suppression or that it shouldn't be taken seriously. Art shouldn't be taken seriously. It's not important. But expression is so important, even down to the clothes that you wear, down to the little clips and stuff that women, have. Women are beautiful expressions of that creativity and how art is so profoundly important. And I know as a woman myself that it's those moments when everything is going wrong that I need to put my best clothes on, my best face on. And that's what empowers me to move forward, feeling good or being able to write. And now everyone's journaling and things like that. So there's been a long suppression of this unique way of creating, even in these art scenes where it's like, okay, this is the way we do oil painting. You have to do it like this. But what about the way that you do things? The unique way that you do things. So we want to get back to who are you outside of what is being said in reality? What is being said that health should look like? What is spirituality should look like? And that's why etymology is so important because it gets you down to the origins. And when you get down to the origins of the thing, you find culture. And culture is very poetic because symbolism is, and life is poetic. When we have those, revelations, they're profound. Those are profound moments in our psyche and our private moments with the great goddess or the god or whatever you want to call. It's your moment in those private seconds that are poetic, that are revolutionary in your own life. And that's what we want to get to. We want to shut down this world and protect our realities and leave fear alone. And of course, we can, fear is going to arise, but we need to look at what are the real causes. Because whatever's going on in your reality, there's always your faith, there's always you, and you always have power over something. So, where does the fear lie? Where does it really come from? This is a lot of words that people use going back to master, because I know a lot of men have been used as the picture, even down to the Buddha, as a symbol of mastery. But we have to look at that word. It is ma stir, and E and A are the same in etymology. So it's Ma's star, right? So we're talking about Mother Nature science because mother rules over matter. It's a Latin word that means matter. As we can see, there's been a domination in this world of the divine feminine, not only in the fleshy forms, but also nature. And we see nature reacting in a violent way. And I know women know when they feel unheard, when they feel unseen, or when they are scorned, she will act the exact same way as nature. It will become a destructive force. And the same goes with children. Children are the divine feminine aspect when they're young. They're in that, chaos stage where everything is everything. Everything is everywhere. Everything's so crazy and, they're just chaos. And that's literally, what the divine feminine represents in science in general. And even in, yin energy is negative. So it's all negative and positive. And the negative force represents divine energy, divine feminine energy, as well as what you see out in space, because it's the darkness excuse me, the darkness that we do not want to face. A lot of people are scared of darkness. And the reality is if we weren't ever in the dark, we would never be who we are today. We would never be where we are today. So we cannot be afraid of the darkness. We cannot be afraid to look at the things that need to be changed. And the reality is that it's coming back to the divine feminine, which goes back to the economy. A lot of people think of the economy as this big machine, but economy is a household. It's a word that means household. And you can't have a household without a woman because you can't have a baby without a mother. So this is about respecting that energy, respecting the matriarchal principle and all of its magnificent forms, because not only, women have divine feminine, we have masculine and feminine, but so do men. And us respecting the rights of man to be emotional or want to cry and not making that demasculating a man because of that. There's so many different ways, how this could be seen. And it's all about balancing the polarities. And there's been an imbalance of the suppression of the divine feminine. So I also want to go back into, and that's the humanity of everything. That's human, that's mother, and understanding the importance of respecting the mother. But then we want to go back into governing, right? Governing and mental. These are words we need to understand when we're talking about, when we're looking at the politics of things, because the reality is we need to realize that we are empowered in our lives. And what I've seen in society is a lot of complaints about, politics and things like that. And what I want to draw everybody's attention to is that this is a great awakening for you to empower yourself and realize that you only have control of your life. You do not have to buy into fear. And when you start realizing what these words mean, it really empowers you because it all draws back to self. Because governing is governing, govern and meant, two words. Governing your mental, you govern your mental. A state is actually not technically a physical place. It's a state of mind. What is your state of mind? Your state of mind, everybody knows the laws of attraction, decide what you draw in. And I think that there's been a lot of misconception about the reality controls us. We need to take our power back. We control the reality. We just have to have the courage. You just have to have the courage to do it. And it's a big responsibility. So I understand the intimidation, but we need to come back to the truth. And the truth lies in culture, which you will find words once again. So we're looking at government and I got some notes here. So government also is a Latin word, which was pronounced gubernare, and it means to direct, rule, guide, or to steer like a steering wheel or a pilot, right? So you're the pilot of your ship, of your vessel. Your vessel is this body, and you are the pilot. You decide what comes in and what doesn't come in. And it's about protecting your reality. And a lot of people, I spoke with someone today, and they find that that is a way of being avoidant, but it's not being avoidant. It's about the reality is that this is your world. Don't be moved by other people's worlds that are chaotic. And this is how we protect our peace. We protect our peace by saying, I don't accept that. This is my reality, and this is where I'm heading. Because there's actually places on earth that haven't even been explored. So you never know where your mind can bring you to, what reality it can bring you into. So we want to stay open to the roots of these words and really have like time to reflect, what they actually mean. Like, okay, this is the origin of these things. What can I do with this? I can govern my life. I have power over my life. And I think it's about accountability and self-mastery and evolution of self, evolution of consciousness is about taking your power in all of its forms, from the status quo, even from families. We have to be realistic. The stain of violence on the collective is very apparent right now. Okay. There's a huge stain of violence because manipulation, bullying, and harassment has been the cult that has been passed down. That's been the deaf culture. But we want to get back to something that is prosperous. And that's why I always like to talk about the root of things. So we want to govern our system because we understand that a matrix is just a word that means system, which by the way is Ma's tricks. Ma's tricks, because this is the realm of illusion. Now, this is my culture we're talking about. So we're going to go out there today. So this is the realm of illusion, and everything is controlled by mind because everyone is a man, and man means is mana, which means mind. All is mind. This conference we're on was an idea. It was a thought. And then the person that came up with the idea, or the group that came up with the idea, enacted that thought and made it real. So everything starts from the mind. Any book that you've ever read, anything that's been written was experienced, which is the same word as experiment. And that's why the highest knowledge on the planet is self, because we're all just experimenting. We're all just out here trying our best and seeing what does and doesn't work for us. And that experience is unique to you. So every formula is not going to work for everybody. Everybody might not be able to eat an orange. Everybody might not be able to eat an apple because we are unique. And it's time to tap into that. So we talked about that. So I also want to talk about going back to being governed. So when we're a child, when we're children, we're not really in control, really, right? We're being governed by the rules of the economy, which is the household. And they might not resonate because we always see a lot of pounding, but it's all experience, right? Because it's like, well, my mom did this, my dad did this. I don't want to do this, but we want to change. Now, there's been a lot of pressure on us to be like things that do not resonate with us. And family, you might see a lot of oppression or a lot of abuse against family members that want to do something different. And then you go out into the world, and because there's a collective narrative of this same kind of system, you see more of it, and it feels like you're kind of being pushed down. So we have that. That's being governed by the parents that have decided to be involved with the collective environment, if you're following. So this is where we get the culture from. So culture is actually a word that actually has to do with land and like harvesting things, which goes back to seeds, right? So some of us, we already know that all of us have been abused. Even in the 1940s, it was a known thing for children to only be seen and not heard, which is a major abuse to the child and also a silencing. We go back further than that. We talk about witch trials where women were burned for drinking tea or killed for drinking tea. That's a form of silencing, expression, speaking out against certain things were being silenced. In China, we see that a lot of people being silenced. So what we notice is there is a collective wound of silencing. And if the person isn't silent about how they feel, that isn't in alignment with who they are, then that's when the manipulation comes. That's when the bullying comes. So we have to begin to remove ourselves from this type of environment. That doesn't mean that you have to literally walk away, which I mean, in my opinion, you should probably do, but this is not about my opinion. It's about building an internal environment that basically blocks and pushes this type of environment away. How do we do that? By understanding the signs and symbols, which words A, B, C, D, E, or even my name, Mia, M-I-A, which is also AIM and I am. That's information about me. What is the information about you and your name? What is the symbols in your name? What do you symbolize as a person? This is self-discovery. This is how we start pulling these jewels. We look at the words, we look at what we're seeing. It's a lot. It's like Neo in the Matrix, but it's a lot. but we start look slowly because nature doesn't give you too much. You take it slow. What are you seeing constantly? Maybe you're seeing a butterfly. What's going on in your reality right now? Because, first of all, butterflies, we're going to have multiple transformations. We're going to be a butterfly more than once. But there might be something else telling you about another form of what you're actually going through. So, for instance, at one point in my life, I was being attacked and the stink bug was around. The stink bug, it's like it symbolizes basically you're putting out a certain smell and people do not want, they don't like it. Okay. So, but your smell is protection. So you're protected. So what you're saying and what you're doing, even though it seems like you're getting a lot of pushback, it's actually protection. So instead of saying, hey, there's something wrong with me, this environment is not in alignment with who I am. That is the ultimate truth. This environment is not in alignment with who I am, and I need to reflect on what is occurring. That is always the truth. It's never, there's something wrong with me. Maybe there's a behavior pattern that needs to change, but that's what the observation is for. And that's what the signs and symbols are for you to reflect. So we need to pay attention. So let me look. Sorry, a lot. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit too about just the age of Pisces and understanding the duality of everything, because this is a beautiful thing that's happening right now, but there's also a lot of ugly stuff that's happening as well. So when we talk about duality, like also when you're not in alignment with an environment, there could be a negative thought behavior that you need to change, or there could be, and there's also something about the environment that's not in alignment with who you are. So that's two things. That's positive and that's negative, meaning like, okay, it's not me, this environment isn't right, but the negative is that I am perpetuating a behavior that is attracting this type of environment. That is the duality to everything. And this is why we can take away from judgment, not only of ourselves, but of others, because we don't have the right to judge because we're all perceiving lights, angles. This is angles of light. This is perception. My perception is only relative to what I see in front of me. So if there's a crime that happens and I'm standing here, somebody's standing 100 feet, they're going to have a different perspective. So we have to be open to the idea that no one is right, no one's wrong. We're just not in alignment, and they're doing something that's toxic to me, and I'm doing something that's toxic to them, and this isn't working. But it's not about judging. We need to come to the middle. That's the beauty of the symbol, the Taiji 2 symbol, also known, if you don't know what that is, it's yin and the yang symbol that everyone's using now. I love it. But that is a powerful symbol, and that represents the age that we just came out of, which was the age of Pisces. That is the two fish when we talk about the age of Pisces, right? So Pisces is actually a word that means fish. And in the Bible, Jesus is representatory of that energy. Because it's the duality of living in a very negative environment, but still being the light pushing itself forward. Because the yin and the yang are together. They work together. Light and dark work together. They cannot exist without one another. So that is the beauty of the Piscean energy, but it's tricky. So we just came out of the Piscean era, right? We're moving into the age of
Mia,
Aquarius. Yes.
I really don't want to disrupt your flow because I know
Okay.
you're so in flow right now, and I
Yes.
know, but you have got 5 minutes, so I don't want you to
Okay.
like, but
Okay.
no, I know because it's felt like it's gone so quickly, and I can see your passion and you're in flow, and I didn't want to disrupt you, but I just want to give you heads up because I know it can get, so I
Thank you so much.
appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me wrap it up. So the Piscean energy is about creativity, it's about dreams, it's about ideas, it's about fantasy, but it's also about poison, opposition, imprisonment, hospitalization, which is what we're talking about, mental illness, and the imprisonment of the mind, self-undoing. So the question that we all need to ask ourselves is, in our reality, what is eroding? What is very clearly not working? and how did we contribute to it? What does that mean in our records, not what society says? What does it mean? What was the lesson gained from it? And what is the way that you can alchemize that lesson and turn it into wisdom? And that's the beauty of the darkness. Because once you make it through, you arrive more wise, more aware, and you know how to move forward quickly. I mean, in a better way, I should say. So it's about duality. I think the age that we're coming into, it's about decentralizing these old ideas, these old belief systems that have oppressed not only, women, but the globe in itself, Mother Nature, and coming into the reality of what actually is who we are, discovering who we are through the darkness and discovering how we contribute even to some of these elections and other things. How do we contribute to these things and how do we stop? How do we remove ourselves and build something better? So I'm going to cut it off there. I had way more
Wow.
written
No, I know. Yeah. I know. I even if all I'm gonna say on that, because I actually feel like I would really love to talk to you separate to this, but I feel like even if people like we're not always getting the words, just feel the energy. Feel the energy of what
Yes,
she's saying. Feel the passion of what she's saying, because I feel like we kind of all level. So if you listen back actually to a lot of ladies today, it's all infinity. It's all interlinked. It's all interwoven. It's just at different levels and different seeds and different plantings so that we can, whatever consciousness we are at, we can access it. And
yes.
I really appreciate you. I can 100% hear a lot of your knowledge, a lot of your wisdom. And I can tell you don't even need to have it written down. It's just in you.
I have to
Um,
get organized.
Yes. And I appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time to share that again, using this, not just this, but your actions, which I've seen with so many women today, is the key, the powerful key. And you're amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much for having me. Much love to everyone. I want to thank my ancestors again, the great goddess that walks with us all. And may everybody be prosperous this year. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.